Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the SK series, or if you're new here, this is Serial Killers with Sydney Kelly, and today we're going to highlight David Berkowitz, or you may know him as Son of Sam. But without further ado, let's get into this story and start with the early life of David Berkowitz. So, David was born June 1st, 1953, in Brooklyn, New York, and he was actually born with the name Richard David Falco. His mother was Betty, and she was married to Tony. Tony Falco. However, Betty was kind of having an affair with this guy named Joseph, and things just got really complicated. So, Betty actually got pregnant. She had no idea who the father was, but both men literally wanted nothing to do with this child. So, Betty decides that it probably is the best option to put this child up for adoption. So the child, David, is given to Pearl and Nathan Berkowitz. So Pearl and Nathan want to give this child a new life, so they decide to give him a new name, David Berkowitz. So David was known in school as to be above average guy. He was kind of a little spoiled, a little brattish, but overall he was a pretty good child. Pearl and Nathan loved him deeply, treated him like he was their own. Honestly, he had a great childhood. However, near adolescence time, David just began this hobby and passion for stealing and setting fires. Don't really know where it came from, but that's just what he liked to do. He said he got this rush from starting fires and stealing things. So there was some tension in the household, but it was okay. However, things really went downhill when David's adopted mother, Pearl, passed away from breast cancer. David did not take this well at all. He saw Pearl as his mother, and he knew how much she loved him, and he loved her deeply as well. So David did not take this well at all, and things got worse when his adopted father, Nathan, decided to remarry. David honestly could not understand this. He thought that Pearl should be the only woman that Nathan ever loves. So he did not take this well at all, and there was a lot of tension in the household because of this. So David literally just wanted to get away, and he decided the only way to do this was to enlist in the military. So in 1974, David does enlist in the U.S. Army, where he serves in Fort Knox and South Korea. However, 3 years later, he has an honorable discharge. We don't know what for, but he is enlisted from the military. He decides to move back to New York and start a job at the U.S. Postal Office. During this time, David is really just discovering himself. He's in his early 20s and he's trying to figure out life. So David makes it a point to find his birth mother and just ask, hey, like, where did I come from? You know, why did you decide to put me up for adoption? Things like that. David met Betty pretty easily. He found her info pretty easily, met up with her. However, David did not like the answer that he got from Betty, and he just felt that all the motherly figures in his life were just leaving him and not really um, caring about him because they left. So David was just so upset by this. So David decides to, just keep working, try to figure out life. He moves into this neighborhood in the 1970s, late 1970s, where he has this neighbor. And this is when things just get a little weird. This neighbor has this golden retriever, golden retriever named Harvey. Aren't golden retrievers just like the most peaceful dogs ever? Like, I feel like anytime, I think of just a peaceful moment that there's a dog in it, it's a golden retriever because they're just so gentle and kind. Like, I would never think of a golden retriever doing anything wrong, right? But according to David Berkowitz, the golden retriever was possessed by an ancient demon. And this golden retriever, Harvey, with the most innocent name, Harvey told David that he needs to go out and kill pretty young girls so that Harvey can feed off of their blood and live longer. So David decides that he's going to act on this because I guess he has to help out the dog. I guess. I don't know why he feels the need to listen to the dog, but yeah, so David decides, hey, like, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna start killing women, right? And again, this is why we are scared. This is why women are scared, because of people like this. So, David doesn't know how, but he's gonna start killing young, innocent women. So, on Christmas Eve, 1975, David is 22 years old now, and he decides to take his pocket knife. He runs into two 15-year-old girls, and he just starts stabbing through both of them. One is hospitalized, the other one unfortunately passes away. But the one who was sent to the hospital could not give any information about David because it was in the middle of the night. It was just out of nowhere. She couldn't see his face, nothing. So unfortunately, police are unable to identify anyone, and they're really unable to do anything about this case. So David, David isn't like most of our little serial killers. David's a little bit um he kind of is a little smart, low key. So David says, you know what? I don't want anyone to start suspecting me for anything. I'm just going to lay low for a bit, and I'm not going to use the same weapon. So David decides to buy a 44 caliber pistol, and he decides that this is going to be his new weapon. So on July 29th, 1976, Jody and Donna, this is in the Bronx, they're just chilling in their car, having girl time, talking it up. And Donna, I guess she was gonna get out, but she sees this man like kind of running towards her. And instead of closing the door and starting the car and leaving, because that's what you should do, Donna decides to ask, like, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you walking up on me like that? And David takes out his pistol, shoots her right in the chest, and she dies instantly. So Jody is in the passenger seat. Jody doesn't have time to crawl over, get into the driver's seat, and drive away. So Jody just runs off as fast as she can, gets out of the car, and starts running. So David just takes out his gun and shoots Jody in the leg. However, he decides to not keep shooting because this is kind of a public parking lot. So he decides to just put his gun back in his bag and leave. However, with Jody escaping, David is a little bit excuse me. David is a little bit petrified by this, so he decides to lay low again. Jody does make it to the hospital. However, she is unable to give a police report because, again, David just came out of nowhere, didn't see his face, nothing. So after a few months, October 23rd, 1976, Carl and Rosemary are just in the car again. Couple, chatting it up, having a good time after their date, when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, windows just start shattering. So Rosemary is the one driving. The girlfriend is driving. She starts just driving, trying to get away, and she looks over, and Carl has been shot in the head. Luckily, the couple both get away. Rosemary just has a few injuries as the glass has shattered on her arms and things like that. But Carl did survive. He just had to get metal plates put in to replace the parts of his skull that were broken down. However, this case was important because police were able to see some similarities between this and when Donna and Jody were shot. So police see the similarities in between this because a 44 caliber pistol was used. I'm not good with like names of guns, so like if I end up mixing that up, I'm really sorry. But police come to a speculation that David maybe thought Carl was a female because Carl had longer hair. So they suspect that David is after women who have medium to long dark hair, and he is trying to make them victims. So a month later, November 27, 1976, two high school students, Donna and Joanne, Donna's 16, Joanne is 18, they notice a man in a full combat uniform coming up to them and asking them for directions. David just opened his mouth so quick, like, hey, can I get directions too? And then he just pulls out of his gun and just starts unloading on these two innocent girls. Oh my goodness. Donna was shot in the neck, and Joanne, she did survive. She was brought to the hospital. However, she was left paralyzed after this case. So there was a woman who did see this, and she saw David running away, and she called the police. However, nothing was able to happen because the two girls weren't able to give any information on this. But after a few months, because David decided maybe he should lay low for a little bit. He's been doing a lot of killing recently, so he decides to lay low. However, July 30th, 1977, a couple, Kristen and John, are in their car after seeing the Rocky movie, and I guess they're just talking about the movie. And all of a sudden, gunshots start to penetrate the car. John tries to drive away, but John tries to drive away, but Christian does not make it. John, however, does survive, and he does make it to the hospital. Still, no information is able to be given about David, but police reveal that these shootings are related, and they start to sketch up things based off of things that they've seen and similarities with these cases. On March 8th, a girl named Virginia, who was 19, was confronted with a man with a gun. She held up her textbooks to try to shield herself. However, one of the bullets went through the textbooks and shot her in the head, and Virginia was immediately dead. All of these bullets were .44 caliber pistols. So after linking up all these cases together, the police decided to name the killer the .44 caliber killer, which is like a really good simple name. I feel like sometimes they get a little too they get a little too creative with these names. No. Later, March 10th, 1977, Alexander, 20-year-old, and his girlfriend Valentina were just sitting in the car, and David came up and shot them both. However, this was an interesting case. This was a little different because David decided to leave a note, and David reveals in this note that he no longer wants to be called the .44 caliber murderer. What did I say his name? .44 caliber killer. So I'm going to read you guys this note. Be prepared. Brace yourself. I am deeply hurt by your calling me a Weemon hater. I am not, but I am a monster. I am the son of Sam. I am a little brat. When Father Sam gets drunk, he gets mean. He beats his family. Sometimes he ties me up to the back of the house. Other times he locks me in the garage. Sam loves to drink blood. Go out and kill, commands Father Sam. Behind our house some rest, mostly young, raped and slaughtered. Their blood drained, just bones now. Papa Sam keeps me locked in the attic too. I can't get out, but I look out the attic window and watch the world go by. I feel like an insider. I'm on a different wavelength than everybody else, programmed to kill. However, to stop me, you must kill me. Attention, all police. Shoot me first. Shoot to kill, or else. Keep out of my why, or you will die. Papa Sam is old now. He needs some blood to preserve his youth. He has had too many heart attacks. Me hoot. It hurts. Sonny boy. Interesting. I miss my pretty princess most of all. She's rested in Our Lady's house, but I'll see her soon. I am the monster. Beelzebub, the chubby... don't know what that word says. I love to hunt, prowling the streets, looking for fair game, tasty meat. The women of Queens are the prettiest of all. I must be the water they drink. I live for the hunt, my life, blood for Papa. Sir, I don't want to kill anymore. No, sir, no more. But I must honor thy father. I want to make love to the world. I love people. I don't belong on earth. Return me to Yahoo's To the people of Queens, I love you. And I want to wish all of you a happy Easter. May God bless you in this life and in the next. And for now, I say goodbye and good night. Please let me haunt you with these words. I'll be back. I'll be back. To be interrupted as bang, 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 bang. Yours in murder, Mr. Monster. Wow, I really struggled reading that because, like, wow, it just looked like a long text message from someone who was really upset and, like, you are trying to, like, process everything. So, yeah, I'm sorry for stumbling over that, but wow. So this letter came out, right? And police decided to put this in the newspaper, and I'm sure everyone struggled reading that too. And I love how he addressed it, Mr. Monster, but he just said that he wants to be called Son of Sam. Very interesting. Anyways, this freaked out the town, as it should. All of New York City's going crazy. Poor New York City, like in the 70s, they're just dealing with so many serial killers. Like, what a terrible time to be alive. Anyways, well, not be alive. Let me rephrase that. I'm sorry. That is a terrible time to be living in New York City. Let's put it that way. However, many women started to change their hair color. Many women started to dye their hair blonde, or they started to cut their hair because they're scared. However, the killings must continue in David's eyes. So on June 1977, Judy and Sal, a young couple, were shot in their car. No one was able to see who shot them. After a while, David's like, okay, like, I'm doing a lot in Brooklyn. I'm doing a lot in Queens. Let me just pull up in Brooklyn and kill somebody there. So on July 31st, 1977, he shot Stacy and Bobby. My goodness, he just keeps going. So, Bobby lost his eye, unfortunately, and Stacy was killed. This is the first woman who was killed with blonde hair. And now it's like a loss is a loss. Like, these women are dyeing their hair blonde and they're still passing away. However, luckily, there was a woman who she was walking her dog earlier, and she saw David get out of the car, and she heard some gunshots in the distance, and she saw David go back into his car, and she said that could have been the guy who's been doing all of these killings. So she's like, I'm definitely going to the police on this, because, like, she is trying to live her peaceful New Yorker life, and this guy just keeps killing people. Like, give New York City a break, right? So she calls the police, tells them everything about this man, but the most important thing she tells them is that he got into a car with a parking ticket. So there's only a limited amount of parking tickets that went out that day. So police are able to put two and two together. They are able to go find his car, and in his car they find maps of crime scenes. They find a rifle on his back seat, and they find threatening letters. So they find where he lives, and they had a warrant to search his home and arrest him. However, they said, you know what? We'll just wait for him to come outside. We will just patiently wait. So at 9 p.m., David decides to come out. Police hold a gun to his temple, and they are about to arrest him. And David says, well, you got me. So police only need 30 minutes to interview David, and during this interview, David decides to say that, remember Harvey? Remember our possessed golden retriever? So David says, this was all done because of that golden retriever. He's trying to play the mental case, like he doesn't have the mental capacity to think for himself. However, 3 different psychiatrists came to the conclusion that David actually is full of the mental capacity to act on these murders himself. He did this because he just hates the world and he hates the circumstances that he was put in, so he's taking his anger out on other people. It's not because of the dog. So David is actually sentenced to 25 years for the life of each of these murders consecutively. David is put in prison, and after a few years later, David gets to know God, and he is has become a born again Christian, and David changes his name from the son of Sam to the son of Hope. David starts to share his story with people, and people are asking him to write stories and things like that, and David is like kind of getting the royalties off of these stories. However, in New York, they decided to pass a law saying that people who are charged with crimes, they're not able to receive money from stories that are made about them or movies that are made about them, etc. So this was actually given the son of Sam laws. And look at that, he got him a little name, law named after him. I'm sure, like, unfortunately, he's not the son of Hope, but oh well. So in 2002, he started to apply for parole, but he was denied. He continues to apply for parole, but he keeps getting denied. David is 67 years old now, and there are a few interviews about him. He's still alive. He's still like trying to get out of prison. And you know what's crazy? I think this story definitely proves that anyone can be a killer. David, most serial killers we see, they had a head injury or they just had like a crappy home life, like their dads were terrible or something like that. However, David had two loving parents, and he was a very good student, and he did pretty well in his job and all of those things. And you know, he just decided to let all of that anger build up. So go to therapy. If you need to go to therapy, go to therapy, literally. And for instances like this, honestly, the worst thing about this serial killer is, you know, he just killed people at random, you know. So with things like this, honestly, again, be aware of your surroundings. If some creepy man just come, or maybe, I don't know, maybe David wasn't creepy. I don't know, look, you guys see his picture, like, let me know if you find him creepy or not. But you know, just be aware. If something looks a little sketchy, run, literally. And I know you can't really avoid bullets sometimes, but try to do your best to just be aware, be observant, and you don't always have to give people directions or be kind to people, unfortunately. That's just the world that we live in. But guys, this was Son of Sam. I'm so glad you stayed for the whole video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe to this channel. And if there's any other serial killers that you want to hear next week, please comment down below. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in to the SK series, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thank you so much.